Okay, let's dive into the wonderful, chaotic mess that is the PvP system in Ashes of Creation. We've got a lot to unpack here, so grab a drink, maybe even a snack, because this is one wild ride of mechanics, mayhem, and maybe a touch of masochism. We're going to look at whether this always-on PvP coupled with the corruption system is the kind of feature that'll make Ashes a colossal success, or shove it into the same closet that EVE Online has been living in. First, a quick rundown for anyone not already neck-deep in the Ashes community. The PvP in this game is always on, which means that if someone feels like wrecking your day while you're just picking flowers, they totally can. But the corruption system is where things get interesting. This isn't your typical go-to-jail mechanic. If you take out someone who doesn't want to fight back, you get slapped with corruption points. It's like trying to speed through a school zone while the cops are watching. And instead of giving you a ticket, they take your steering wheel cover, siphon some gas, and pop a tire. In theory, this system encourages strategic combat in dedicated PvP events, and keeps random player hunting in check. It's a deterrent for mindless griefing without killing the thrill of PvP entirely, but the reality is where the chaos starts. Once upon a time, I'm out with a few guildmates doing the usual grind, when one of them bites it thanks to a bad mob pull. No big deal, it happens to everyone. But then out of nowhere, some random rat waltzes in and loots his corpse like he's Cartman at a stuff your face buffet. Naturally, our buddy decides he's going to get his stuff back. But here's the catch. Killing this rat will immediately mark him for corruption and turn him into a loot pinata for everyone else in the area. Suddenly, our friend's got more corruption than a US politician, and as expected, the other players around us take him out. He loses some of his gear, his resources, and gets a stern talking to by Narc. I've learned that sometimes you're better off just standing still and looking innocent, because if you attack someone who isn't fighting back, you're not just picking a fight, you're signing your own death warrant, and a lot of players won't go through the trouble. So let's talk about the good stuff. I've seen a lot of systems where PvP is either totally free-for-all or completely restricted, and Ashes is trying to find a middle ground. That means if you see someone harvesting your favorite resource, you can go over and hypothetically throw down. It's an added layer of tension, like will they or won't they? Like the online equivalent of deciding whether to steal someone's parking spot, with the possibility that if you try, you're going to get wrecked. The system gives you the freedom to engage, but warns you, don't get too comfortable or you'll pay the price. This corruption mechanic makes players think twice. Sometimes, like I said earlier, just standing there doing nothing is the best way to avoid a confrontation. And honestly, it's kind of hilarious, the idea that someone might hesitate to whack you just because you look unthreatening. It's kind of a funny twist on the usual PvP dynamic. There's a certain satisfaction in knowing you might get away with something just by standing still. Here's the flip side though. As with any good idea, there's always someone ready to break it. There are players out there whose sole mission is to throw a wrench in the works, and those players are called griefers. They find loopholes that let them exploit the system, ambushing low-level gatherers, pulling mobs, and goading others into corruption traps. And this is where things get a bit dicey. When I watched the Asmongold saga play out, I could see the writing on the wall. If enough players use the corruption system to mess with others, it's going to be a problem for the game. Griefers don't mind paying the price because the payoff, the sheer enjoyment of ruining someone else's day, is worth it to them. And if Ashes doesn't adapt to that, we could see a big chunk of players bowing out. So where do we go from here? The question isn't whether PvP is good or bad, it's how Ashes of Creation can make PvP engaging without making it frustrating. There are rumors that the devs are considering tweaks, but we can only wait and see what those are and how they'll affect the game. The risk is that if they don't find the right balance, we're looking at a game that is dead before it arrives. Sure, some hardcore PvPers and dedicated MMO fans would love the game, but everyone else will find something better even faster than my ex did. The challenge will be keeping PvP dangerous without making it disastrous. That's what the devs are up against here. And if they get it right, it could be epic. We're talking about a game that us old guys live out the rest of our days playing. But if they get it wrong, this may be the last time that any game company tries to make an MMO. Ever. So in the end, Ashes of Creation has something truly unique here, and it's really fun to play. This isn't your typical MMO PvP. It's a mix of strategy, patience, and of course a bit of luck. The corruption system is a clever way to add stakes to combat without making it a free-for-all, but it's also a double-edged sword. We've all seen great ideas that didn't work out because, frankly, players are way better at breaking systems than developers are at making them. But that's the idea, right? Ashes of Creation could end up being the MMO that figures out how to do PvP right, or it could be a case study in good ideas gone bad. Either way, I'll be here, watching, playing, waiting, and engaging in corporate espionage while everyone else suffers from PvP. That's all for today. You're welcome.